Today we discussed about human nervous system that include central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The human nervous system consists of central nervous system, that means CNS, and peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system consists of afferent pathway and efferent pathway. We can draw the flow chart of human nervous system that include central nervous system, that is CNS, and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system include brain and spinal cord. The central nervous system include brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system consists of afferent pathway and efferent pathway. Afferent pathway and efferent pathway. Efferent pathway. The efferent pathway again divided into somatic pathway and autonomic pathway. The afferent pathway, that means sensory nerves. Afferent pathway include sensory nerves. Sensory nerves that bring information to central nervous system. The afferent pathway with sensory nerves bring information towards the central nervous system. Bring information to central nervous system. The efferent pathway include motor nerves. Motor nerves that send information away from central nervous system to other parts. Send information away from central nervous system to other parts of the body. The efferent pathway again divided into somatic pathway and autonomic pathway. This efferent pathway again divided into somatic pathway and autonomic pathway. The somatic pathway means most cranial nerves convey messages to voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles are the muscles that can control with our will. That is motor muscles. The somatic pathway, most cranial nerves convey message to voluntary muscles. Examples of voluntary muscles, the muscles in limbs. The autonomic nervous system, that means that innervates involuntary effectors, that is involuntary, innervates involuntary effectors. Example of involuntary muscle, that is the muscle of heart and most of the internal organs. The autonomic nervous system, that again divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic part. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. The human nervous system consists of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system include brain and spinal cord. Peripheral nervous system with afferent pathway and efferent pathway. Afferent pathway means sensory nerves bring information to central nervous system, and efferent pathway means motor nerves or motor neurons send information away from central nervous system to other part of the body. The efferent pathway again divided into somatic pathway and autonomic pathway. The somatic pathway, most cranial nerves convey messages to voluntary muscles. The autonomic nervous system consists of that innervates involuntary effectors that control involuntary actions. The autonomic nervous system again divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic means stimulatory, that controls stimulatory actions, and parasympathetic part means that effect calming stimulations. Sympathetic means stimulatory functions that control stimulatory activities, and a parasympathetic part control, or that means that control calming effect. We can discuss this part detailed in our session. Then the part brain, that is the part of central nervous system. Brain lodged inside the cranium. Brain lodged inside the cranium, protected by 3 coverings. That is, coverings means meninges. The outer tough dura mater, middle web-like arachnoid matter, and inner vascular pia mater. These are the 3 layers of meninges. Brain lodged inside the cranium, protected by 3 meningeal layers. That is outer tough dura mater, middle web-like arachnoid matter, and inner vascular vascular pia matter. These are the 3 layers of meninges that protect the brain. The cerebrospinal fluid filled in between these meningeal layers. Cerebrospinal fluid, that is meningeal fluid, filled in between these 3 layers. Brain consists of 3 regions. Forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. The brain consists of mainly 3 parts: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. The first part of brain is cerebrum. Cerebrum is the first part. Cerebrum is the largest part, divided into 2 hemispheres, the right and left hemispheres. Cerebrum is the largest part divided into 2 hemispheres, that is left and right hemispheres. It is highly involuted with ridges and grooves. The outer region, that is cortex. Outer region of cerebrum, known as cortex, contain cell bodies of neuron. Neuron is the basic unit of brain. The cortex contains cell bodies of neuron. So it is greyish in color. That is known as grey matter. Now we just write the part of neuron. This is the cell body, head portion, cell body with a nucleus, dendron, dendrites. This is the axon, axon part. It is covered by a white colored proteinaceous myelin sheet. This is the ending of axon, that is known as axonite. The tip part of axonites with synaptic knobs. This is a typical structure of neuron, the basic unit of brain. This is the cell body. The cortex contains cell body, this part, that is just grey color. So it is, the cortex is greyish in color, known as grey matter. The inner region of brain composed of whitish axon fibers. The inner region of brain composed of whitish axon fibers, that is known as white matter. Corpus callosum is a sheet of crisscross nerve fibers. Corpus callosum is a sheet of crisscross nerve fibers connecting 2 hemispheres. Corpus callosum is a sheet of crisscross nerve fibers connecting 2 hemispheres. Left side of cerebrum control right side of our body and vice versa. Left side of cerebrum control right side of our body and right side of cerebrum control the left side of our body. The next function of cerebrum. Function of cerebrum. Function of cerebrum. It controls voluntary muscle contractions. Cerebrum controls voluntary muscle contractions. Controls voluntary muscle contractions. Receive and process information from sense organs. The cerebrum receive and process information from sense organs. The 5 sense organs: eyes, nose, ear, tongue and skin. 5 sense organs. The cerebral part receive and process information from sense organs. Information from sense organ. Sense organs. There are 5 sense organs. Third point, carries out mental activities of thinking, reasoning, planning, memorizing, etc. Control mental activities such as thinking, reasoning, planning, memorizing, etc. The functions of cerebrum include controls voluntary muscle contraction or muscular contractions, receive and process information from sense organs, carries out mental activities such as thinking, reasoning, planning, memorizing, etc. The second part of brain is diencephalon. Diencephalon. The part of forebrain lying below cerebrum. Diencephalon is a part of forebrain lying below cerebrum. It is a part of forebrain that is situated below the cerebrum. The diencephalon consists of 2 parts. Diencephalon consists of 2 parts. First, thalamus. Diencephalon consists of 2 parts. First, thalamus. Second, hypothalamus. Thalamus is the first part of diencephalon, located center below the cerebrum. Located center below the cerebrum. It is the relay center for sensory impulses. Thalamus is the relay center for sensory impulses. Example, pain and pleasure. Relay center for sensory impulses. Example, pain and pleasure. The second part of diencephalon is hypothalamus. Located below thalamus. Hypothalamus located below thalamus controls motivated behavior such as eating, drinking and sex. It located below the thalamus. It controls motivated behaviors. Such as eating, drinking and sex. It is regulation center of body temperature and body fluids. It is the regulation center of body temperature and body fluids. The next part of brain is cerebellum. Cerebellum. A small region of brain located at the base of brain. Cerebellum is a small region of brain located at the base of brain that maintain body balance and coordinate muscular activities. Cerebellum is a small region of brain located at the base of brain that maintain body balance and coordinate muscular activities. The next part of brain is medulla oblongata. The next part, medulla oblongata. It is a part of brain connected to spinal cord. Medulla oblongata is a part of brain connected to spinal cord. Functions include such as a center of breathing, coughing, swallowing. It is a part of brain connected to spinal cord. Connected to spinal cord. The functions of medulla oblongata include it is a center for breathing functions. It is a center for breathing, coughing, swallowing. Controls heartbeat, movement of alimentary canal and control many other involuntary functions. Controls heartbeat, movement of alimentary canal, that is peristaltic movement, movement of alimentary canal, control many other involuntary functions. Medulla oblongata is a part of brain connected to spinal cord. Functions include center of breathing, coughing, swallowing, control heartbeat, movement of alimentary canal, that is peristaltic movement, control many other involuntary functions. Next part of central nervous system is spinal cord. Spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord are the part of central nervous system. Now we discuss about spinal cord. It extends from medulla oblongata of brain downward, almost whole length of backbone. It extends from medulla oblongata of brain downward, almost whole length of backbone. It is wrapped by 3 meninges. It is also wrapped by 3 meninges like brain. The arrangement of white matter out and grey matter inner, that is opposite to brain. The white matter seen on outside, white matter seen on outer part and grey matter to the inner side. It is opposite of brain. Now we discussed about central nervous system. Then now we discuss about the other part of brain, that is peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system. It consists of afferent and efferent pathway. First discussed about afferent pathway, that means receiving or sensory part. First part, afferent pathway, that is also known as receiving or sensory part. Receiving or sensory pathway. Which include purely sensory nerves. The afferent pathway include purely sensory nerves. Which include purely sensory nerves. Example, cranial nerves received from eyes, ear, nose, etc. Example, cranial nerves receive from sense organs like eyes, ears and nose, etc. And mixed cranial nerves, these are the purely sensory nerves. Example of purely sensory nerves. Examples, the cranial nerves received from eyes, ears and nose. Then mixed cranial nerves, the peripheral nerve system with afferent and efferent pathway. Afferent pathway, there are two main part, purely sensory nerves and mixed cranial nerves. The purely sensory nerves, examples, cranial nerves received from eyes, ear and nose, etc. And mixed cranial nerves, example, fifth cranial nerve. Fifth cranial nerve, that is example facial nerve. Facial nerve is an example of mixed cranial nerve. The afferent or receiving or sensory pathway include purely sensory nerves and mixed cranial nerves. Examples of purely sensory nerves are nerves, that is cranial nerves received messages from eyes, ears, nose, etc. Mixed cranial nerves, example fifth cranial nerve, that is facial nerve, which contain fibers which bring sensation from face and motor fibers carry impulses away to jaw muscles. We discuss about the facial nerve. The facial nerve, which contains fibers, nerve fibers, which bring sensations from face and motor fibers carry impulses away to jaw muscles. The afferent receiving at sensory pathway with purely sensory nerves and mixed cranial nerves. The purely sensory nerves, examples cranial nerves received from eyes, ear, nose, etc. And mixed cranial nerves, example fifth cranial nerve or facial nerve. These facial nerves or mixed cranial nerves which contains fibers which bring sensation from face and motor fibers carry impulses away to jaw muscles. So it is known as mixed nerves. Next part, first afferent part, then next efferent part. That is also known as sending pathway. Sending pathway. The somatic nerve system and autonomic nerve system. The efferent pathway include somatic nerve system and autonomic nerve system. First, the somatic nerve system. The efferent pathway include somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Now we discussed about the somatic nervous system. That controls voluntary muscles. The somatic nervous system controls voluntary muscles. It includes most cranial nerves and motor nerve fibers of spinal nerves. It controls voluntary muscles that include most cranial nerves and nerve fibers of spinal nerves. Both convey messages from central nervous system to voluntary muscles. controls voluntary muscles. Voluntary muscles. It include most cranial and motor nerve fibers. Or spinal nerve. The somatic nervous system controls voluntary muscles. It includes most cranial nerves and motor nerve fibers of spinal nerves. These both convey messages from central nervous system to, that is CNS, to voluntary muscles. We know there are three types of muscles: voluntary muscles, involuntary muscles and cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles only seen in the wall layer of heart. Voluntary muscles, that are the muscles we can move with our will. The involuntary muscles can't move with our will. Examples of voluntary muscles: the muscles of our limbs, hands and legs. The examples of involuntary muscles are the muscles of internal organs. Next part of efferent pathway, that is autonomic nervous system. First somatic nervous system, then second autonomic nervous system. This innervates the involuntary muscles and glands. The autonomic nervous system innervates the involuntary muscles and glands. Involuntary muscles and glands. It consists of a pair of chains of ganglia and nerves on either side of backbone. The autonomic nervous system consists of a pair of chains of ganglia and nerves on either side of backbone. A pair of chains, left and right side, a pair of chains of ganglia and nerves, ganglia and associated nerves on either side of backbone. The autonomic nervous system includes sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system again divided into two parts: sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Include sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve system. The autonomic nervous system innervates involuntary muscles and glands. It consists of a pair of chains of ganglia and associated nerves on either side of backbone. Autonomic nervous system includes sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve system. The sympathetic nervous system prepares body for facing emergency situations. The sympathetic nervous system prepares our body for facing emergency situations, and parasympathetic nervous system re-establishes the normal conditions once the emergency is over. Facing emergency situations. And the parasympathetic nervous system re-establishes the normal condition. Once the emergency is over. Once the emergency is over. The sympathetic nervous system prepares body for facing emergency situations, and sympathetic nervous system re-establishes the normal condition once the emergency is over. Then the next part, effect of autonomous nervous system. We already discussed about autonomous nervous system. Then the effects of autonomous nervous system. That include sympathetic activity and parasympathetic activities. First, organ, the affective organs. Organ, sympathetic activity, then parasympathetic activity. First organ, eye pupil. At the time of emergency, what happened to eye pupil? It dilates. After the emergency is over, the eye pupil become constricted or become in a normal size. Next organ, heartbeat, speed up, slow down. These are the different activities. Third, blood circulation to skin. Blood circulation to skin low. The skin become pale. If we causing fear, our skin become pale because the blood circulation to the skin become lower. Then after some time our body become calm, then the blood circulation become normal. Fourth, blood circulation to muscles. Blood circulation to muscles increased. kept normal. Then fifth, bronchioles, the part of breathing system. Bronchioles dilates, constricted. Sixth, urinary bladder muscle relaxed and the muscle of sphincter contracts. Sphincter contracts. Then at the time of parasympathetic activity that affect the urinary bladder muscles contract and the sphincter relaxed. The sphincters that seen at the basal part of urinary bladder. The sphincter relaxed. Seventh, sweat secretion increased, no effect. Blood sugar level increased, no effect. Salivation stops normal. Tear gland activated, slow down. Hair erect, relaxed. Adrenal gland that's situated on the top of each kidney that secrete adrenaline. Adrenal gland increase secretion adrenaline. Adrenaline is known as emergency hormone. The oversecretion of adrenaline causes the effect of all sympathetic activities. No effect. Intestinal peristaltic movement. Intestinal muscular movement that is known as peristalsis. Decreased. Then increased. The stomach glands that situated inner wall of stomach. There are different types of stomach glands. Decrease secretion. Then increased their secretion. Now we complete this lesson. The part of brain, that is central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and their activities and their different parts and their activities also. If you like this part, please like, share and